All right, this is my 1996 Honda Civic DX. And this car has been my daily for the past year and some change. And it's been an absolutely great car. I love this car. And for the past couple of years, I've always wanted to get some seat time, go to the track, take this car or any car in general to the mountains. And this car is going to turn in that no excuses car, so that if I ever have a trip planned to the mountains or have a track day coming up, this is the car I can take no matter what. Plan for today, take this car out, talk about the plans for this car in particular, talk about the plans for this account and the plans for me, both as a driver and a car builder. And the purpose of this car is going to be the seat time daily. So no matter what road I'm on, no matter what event I have coming up, I know I can take this car reliably, drive it to the track, drive it to the mountains, wherever it might be, and get home safely. Because I've been giving myself the excuse of, man, I would love to go out on track, man, I'd love to go drive on the Dragon, but I just don't have the car to give me that ability. But realistically, you don't need a whole lot to go on track, to, drive on the mountains. And that's, my whole perspective on it. And a lot of the times, especially with, when it comes from grip driving all the way to drifting, you don't need a faster car. You just need to become a faster driver. And hopefully this car will help me get into that direction. All right, so I'm gonna go through basically a list, what the car has and what the car needs to kind of get to the point where I want it to be. So far with the car, Rev 9 coilovers, Ray's SR08s, necks and tires, not much in that department. For the interior wise, I have LEDs in my cluster, LED headlights also on the outside, and LED turn signals with the switchback, so they switch from clear to amber. I also have this S2000 steering wheel, K-Tune short throw shifter, which is amazing. If you own a Honda or just a manual that you want to make more fun, put a short throw in it. Also, I have like a wide mirror and then an LED dome light, which barely even works because my headliner's falling and covering it, which brings me into the list of what this car needs to kind of get it, not even to a baseline, but just make it into a nicer car. Do I want to go through an entire, basically, interior tune, different seats, maybe a little more bucket bias seats, redo my headliner, maybe clean up some of the interior pieces, finally fix my cluster. That's a big one. Mechanically, this car is great. I mean, it's a D16Y7. It's hard to find a D16Y7 that's in horrible shape. This car, when I originally got it, it had about 124,000 miles, if I'm not wrong. Actually, this past weekend, I was able to I did a whole new oil pan and a seal on it. And I'll actually show that clip right now. All that. Bad. No good. Oil pan's out. Doesn't look too bad. I'm gonna go ahead and check the clearances. I'm sure they're good, but just double check. Flywheel. I'm gonna take the time to clean up some of the hardware and some of the bracketry that goes right there, just so it looks nice. New oil pan, gasket, hardware's cleaned up. Should be good to go. Another big thing that this car needs, which has been a frustration with this car since day one, is actually an exhaust. I've broken 2 exhausts on it, and the exhaust that's on it right now is actually a EX exhaust from a 99. So it doesn't actually fit. And if you know anything about hatchbacks, anything that fits a sedan basically doesn't fit a hatchback. So actually, after the axles, I had to basically just not run a pipe because it just doesn't fit back there. I have to get a hatchback specific one, which I will fix soon. And also, can't know if you hear it. Yeah, my exhaust is hitting my shifter. This car has no VTEC, no power, but it's still so fun to drive. I have no idea why. Maybe it's because it's a very raw car. which this car actually doesn't have any power steering to it. The previous owner actually swapped the power steering rack out for a brand new non-power steering rack, which is pretty cool. And honestly, with a car this light, you barely notice it. It's honestly makes driving roads like this such a pleasure. But one thing that doesn't make these roads fun to drive, and you might be able to notice it, is this floaty suspension. So if you're unaware, if you have a pre-99 Honda Civic DX or CX, they actually did not come with a front sway bar or a rear sway bar. And the only cars that came with a front and rear sway bar were EXs in the front, and then SIs had both a front and a rear, which kind of blows and kind of makes this thing float. And that's going to be like the first phase of this car. It's basically going to be suspension and just chassis reinforcement, making this thing feel as great as possible as it can on a road and then eventually on a track. Which, whenever I say this is going to be my, seat time car, I'm not saying that I'm going to be on track every single weekend, every single track event, every single autocross event. No, it's more of a no excuse car. It's going to be more of a no excuses car. I want to develop more, not even this car, but me as a driver. And any seat time experience you can get, or any experience you can get in any field, just give you miles more experience in that field, if that makes sense. Which I'm trying to give myself that. I'm trying to turn this car into a fun track car so that I can go to the track, go out, have fun, set some personal records, set some times, which is very far in the future, but maybe not as far as I think. Hopefully the sunset looks good on camera, as it does in person. I'm trying not to ride this guy's ass. But yeah, this car for the past year has been great. It's driven great, never given me any issues, especially in fall going into winter. I want to get some drive time in the mountains and maybe a little event or two before we go into full-on winter, icy roads, bad weather. And then do a little more progress to this car. When it comes summertime, hopefully this car will be at a track day, handling, suspension, the look of the car. The interior is a big, pet peeve of mine. This thing has not the best looking interior. And then, hopefully a little, maybe a B18 GSR swappable. We'll see when we cross that road. But that's, in the pretty distant future. And these videos are definitely not going to be an everyday thing, nor an every week thing. It's definitely more, whenever I feel like it, or whenever I'm doing something to the car that I find interesting. And, to also document not only, the car's progress, but my progress as a driver, in total, which hopefully in the near future will be a big change. But, time will in fact tell. But enough yapping. I'm gonna rip on this thing a little more and then close it out. Hopefully this sunset looks good on camera.